When you get to a hard part in a project, that guy that's been working with you and knows about your life or cares about how you feel or if you've had a bad day or a crazy day, you're now not going to be easier on him per se, but you're going to work with them a lot more. You're not going to draw a line in the sand, you're going to collaborate. And the construction industry needs collaboration from all angles.
Hello, everybody. Gavin Coyle back again. I'm the Gaffer. Another great guest today. It's Clyde Reid coming all the way from Canada. And I want you to think about this in terms of the flow of conversation. What are we doing to prepare the next generation for entering into the construction industry? How are we attracting young people into the construction industry? How do we manage those people and the expectations of those people, and how do we keep them in the construction industry for the future so that these guys become the next leaders? Well, Clyde has a great story in the sense of his background with his family and the construction legacy that his family had, and how he has had challenges as a young, ambitious construction professional, and how he's overcome those challenges and how he's bettered himself for the future, and how he wants to reach out to people of a similar age. Or maybe you're a construction owner and you're thinking about your son or your daughter entering into the construction industry, and how to have those real conversations with them. Clyde will give us plenty of nuggets of what we need to, or how we need to talk to the younger generation to get to attract them in and to nurture them and have them as our next rock stars in construction. So,
I hope so.
well, we do too. Welcome to the show, Clyde, and
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much
joining
for
us.
having me.
Yeah, so just you're with Excel Construction in Canada. We'd probably start at that part. What are you
Sure.
doing with that company, and what's your role? And give us a look at your weekly calendar, if you like.
Oh, you don't want to see the weekly calendar, but I'm a project manager with Excel Construction. So I run restoration jobs anywhere from under the ground to 20 floors, 30, 40 floors above the ground. Parking garages to building envelope and all things in between. I'm the one that maintains the job, sets it up, runs it from beginning to end, and hope it's on budget.
Wow. Are we allowed to disclose your age, or is that sort of a taboo topic that
No,
hey,
no, that's actually a big topic for me.
okay,
I'm 29 years old.
okay,
I'm
brilliant.
about to turn 30 at the end of the month, and I've been saying 30 for the past month just so people go, oh, he's 30. 29 has a look and a sound to it. You know what I mean?
So how long have you been in this project management role, this senior position?
So I joined Excel. I've been here for about a year, just coming
Okay,
up on my year in June, July. But in my previous company, I was learning the project management role and kind of blending myself into it.
okay,
And then once I jumped with Excel, it became full-time project management.
okay. So how big a company would Excel be in terms of, growth, size of amount of employees, contractors, revenue?
So we're a good sized company. We handle the whole area of it's called the Greater Toronto Area in Ontario, Canada, and we're growing. And it's just a kaboom. And I'm glad I jumped on when I jumped on because I get the opportunity to ride the train that these guys are shoveling coal into and getting it trucking and moving up. And I get the opportunity to do the same for them. So I get to
Brilliant.
be the growth.
So, in terms of like it's greenfield to final completion, it's full on mixed development type projects, or what
Yeah.
type of commercial scale are we looking at?
So it's we'll do residential, commercial, but we mostly do the residential.
Okay,
And yeah, so we get the award letter, we put in our estimate, they say, "Hey, you've got the job." It gets sent to me and from there on out until I send the final invoicing and all of the closeout packages, it's me.
So yeah, this is the part that really gets into the weeds, if you like. Is
Hit it.
you go out, I suspect, and somebody has an interest in doing a project, and you meet the client.
Yeah.
It's you that meets the client. It's not handed to you. I suspect, is it? And you basically do your recce on site to see, bill of quantities and what drawings and plans are in place, architects. So walk me through that process of how that engagement process takes place.
Well, we have different teams. So we have the estimating team. So
Okay.
we'll get a tender package, or we'll get a letter of invite saying, "Hey, we want you to come look at this job," as well as other contractors.
Yeah.
And we go out, and our estimator or someone on our team, sometimes myself, will go out and we'll look at the job and do the measurements, reach out to our team. Our expertises are all different, so we like to play with each other and talk to each other and work on developing that estimate that's perfect for the client. And then away we go as soon as we get it or we don't.
So are you coming up? Do you recognize you're coming up against the same sort of competitors in the same space on an ongoing basis? So when you see a tender coming across, you immediately go, well, I know such and such a company is probably going to tender for this as well.
Yeah, so some projects will have the companies, the engineer, the consultant will add the companies all in one email, and we'll say, hey, these are the companies that are going to come out to the tender meeting. And then sometimes you go out to the tender meeting and you go, oh, Brad, oh, this. We try and stay as friendly as we can. It's a very competitive and fast paced industry, but there's no room for the negativity. You're all trying to do your job.
Fair play. Well done. So obviously, in terms of your team, do you have a crew of guys that work with you within your department on an ongoing basis? And I suspect then there's other project managers have their own favourites, or do you share the labour across on a need to have basis?
It's not. It's like having. It's poor to say, but it's like having kids. You can't pick a favorite worker. You can't pick a favorite contractor.
Yeah.
You set up a team of contractors and a team of workers that you have that may be good at one thing and then may need a little bit help in the other, and you bounce around and you go, hey, I could really use this guy. I know how good he is at this. Can I borrow him for a week? And you work with your team and manage the labor and everything the best we can to make sure we got the right guys in the right spots.
Brilliant. So take me back to the time when you started entering into the construction space. And I know that your
Sure.
father had his own successes in this area, and obviously there's an influence there. So maybe give us some sense of a background of that relationship and how you got into the construction industry.
Sure. So I started helping my dad with side projects, always around the house, things like that as a small kid. My father was a construction supervisor. My grandfather was in the industry as well. Um, and it was always something that I did. It wasn't my sister, unfortunately. It wasn't my mom to help. It was grab the boy, we're going out and mowing the lawn, or grab the boy, we're gotta hang this up and fix the fridge or whatever it is. So I always had that love of tinkering and fixing things. It's very satisfying to fix things. So I went to college for firefighting after high school and found out blood and guts makes me want to pass out. I had seen blood and guts on myself, cut myself open, no problem. I will stick a hose to a fire any day, but if I see a paper cut, I'll go white. So it's just one of those things I found out while paying thousands of dollars for college. It happens
Okay.
to most, it's sad. But I jumped into the construction after that.
Yeah.
I spoke to my father and I said, hey, a lot of these firefighters, they said construction's a good industry to get into in between because it's exterior, it's hard conditions, it's hard work. They like the look of that. So my father brought me into the construction industry and away we went.
And but he had his own construction business, Clyde, didn't he? Or did
No,
he?
he was just a
No.
supervisor. He was a site supervisor, working supervisor.
Okay.
But when I first started, he had an accident, like a
Okay.
motorcycle accident, and he had a broken ankle and everything. So I went into the industry without my father. And my
Okay.
father had this whole pride thing of wanting to teach me.
Yeah.
And I understand that. He's been in it. His father taught him. He wants to pass it down to me. So
Yeah.
I would come home every day and I'd tell him about my day, and he'd go, "No, no, that shouldn't be the way you do it. You should do it this way. Why are they not teaching you this way?" And I guess there was a sense of pride, and he wanted me to achieve something. So
Yeah.
he ended up coming back early with one of those boots on his feet just to come
Wow.
back and teach me.
Wow.
But what
Okay.
that meant was he sat on a bucket and barked at me and taught me that way because I had to do the work of him and myself
Okay.
in order to get his training. So it was busy. It was busy. It was high emotions all the time. It was trying to keep my father working and paychecks coming in. And by doing that, I'd have to do his work because
Yeah.
he couldn't walk for long. But I also needed him to teach me if I was going to succeed. So it was
Yeah.
tumultuous. There was a lot going on, but I'm here. And I guess it
So
made me.
yeah, and I know that, and it's up to you if you'd like to share it or not. But I know that then that turned into a sort of a toxic type of a relationship where it was overpowering. It was kind of putting too much pressure on you and having, this whole protege type teacher and student role became sort of not a nice not a nice place to be for you. Would that be fair to
No.
say?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of stress, a lot of everybody talks about mental health now, but yeah, we went through it.
Yeah,
And in the industry, we don't talk about it, but we went through it. The way I explain it to everybody is like, do you ever go home and complain about your boss and you go, "Oh man, he was such an ass today," or
yeah,
he
yeah,
spoke to me so poorly, or he yelled at me, and then
yeah,
everybody would go, "Yeah, we all have a boss like that." I'm like, "Well, I sat in the car with him for an hour drive in the morning, sat on the car with him for an hour drive at home, and then had to eat dinner with him."
yeah. Now,
Like
obviously,
it's
the sort of the other side of my shoulder is saying to me, he had your best interest at heart, and he was trying to, probably give you tough love. So where do
he
you
was
sit with that?
trying. I think he was trying to give me what he could. He had this 25-year knowledge of construction,
Mm,
and he might not have been able to do a lot, or my family might not have been able to provide as much as they wanted, but my dad had a skill set,
mm,
and he saw the opportunity to teach me that skill set, and he went with it.
yeah.
But it's hard when it's your father. It's
So
there. I
do you think his model worked for you, or it didn't work for
no,
you? It didn't
no,
work for you.
no, no. I think it worked for me because I was his son, and he's in the industry. He wasn't treating me any different. He would, even before I jumped in construction, he would treat me the same way at home as he would when I got into the field. That's just people in construction have a hard time separating their persona or their identity in this big tough construction industry, and they go home and I'm like, you don't have to be big and tough anymore. But it was
Yeah,
the same.
yeah,
So I was the guy up on a swing stage, a suspended access up on the side of the wall with tears in my eyes
right.
because my father was hard.
Yeah,
And having that pressure, not only of a boss saying, you have to go faster, why can't you do this? Look, it's as easy as this, lickety split. He does it and then looks at me and goes, well, what's the problem? It's frustrating. And
right.
then to have that be your father and to have that expectation that you want to succeed and you want to make him proud and do well. It's Atlas. It's the way the whole world's on your shoulders. You're the next Reed in construction. There's an
So
expectation.
he wasn't like that with the other staff members or the other workers on the
He
site
was
or
harder
at.
on me differently.
Okay.
He would like people on site still had their issues with my dad. They knew when I showed up on site. They went, "Oh, you're Reed's son. Uh
Yeah.
oh." Like they
Yeah.
knew that, like my dad was construction. It
Yeah.
was the guys that could yell at each other, go nose to nose with each other, then sit down at lunch and have a coffee and a cigarette and talk about the Leafs. That's the way
Yeah.
the industry is.
Yeah. Well, is it?
But it is.
Yeah.
Whether it's right is an argument to be had, and I'd love to talk about it, but it is.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I can't, I don't like that. And I know there's thousands of other people that walk by job sites and hear the yelling and stuff like that and may be interested in it, but won't get into it because of this style of teaching and the style of mentoring. Doesn't work.
And what do you say to people that might say to you, "Well, I think you're a little bit being a little bit sensitive. Put your big boy's pants on now and get on with the job because nice people don't build great jobs."
Yes, they do. I call bullshit on that
Okay.
because I I don't know how else to explain it. I've seen job sites go bad when the tough guy walks in and says blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
shoots his mouth off and then walks off site. I was the worker that said screw this guy. I'm gonna walk away, or I'm just gonna sweep up as slowly as possible because I don't like getting yelled at. There was no
Yeah.
reason to yell at me. I made a mistake, and then you yelled at me. You didn't teach me. You didn't explain to me beforehand. You set me up for failure, and then you yelled
Yeah.
at me. Now, sure, I'm sensitive. What's the big deal? Why
Yeah.
does construction have to be this type A personality
Yeah.
that everybody has to be this macho man? It just doesn't make sense. You don't need it. It can be the same as an office. Everybody's different. Let's work together.
Yeah.
Sensitivity, speaking to somebody properly and speaking to somebody with respect for their emotions and for their person is not being sensitive.
Hmm.
It's being another person. It's treating somebody like a person.
Yeah. No, I'm playing devil's advocate with you. So I'm just I know the people you're talking about, and
Hmm.
I've seen it in some cases where they're actually, because they're barking so much, they're actually hiding the fact that they are probably not fully confident in their own ability
Right.
anyway as a leader. And this is sort of a veil that has worked for them because, oh my God, when I bark at these people, they, number one, stay away from me, stay on my path. And number two, they actually just keep their head down and get the job done.
And they
And
won't question his knowledge.
yeah,
I will
yeah,
walk on a site, and with Excel, we've been doing many different projects that I've never experienced. And I've walked up to the workers and I say, I need you to show me this. I need you to explain this to me. You're the one that's done it for 15 years. Tell me what you need, and I will support that. Of course, I'm going to do my information, but as soon as you give that worker the respect,
yeah,
we're now working together.
yeah.
It's
There's no
not
there's no power struggle. There's no
there's
power
no
struggle.
power struggle. It's saying, hey, I have one responsibility and role. You have a responsibility and role. If they don't work together, it's not, we're either going to blow a labor budget, people are going to go home upset. Like,
Yeah.
it could be anything. And why would you do that if you could just speak to somebody properly? But that's the industry we're in right now.
So, do you still have a relationship with your father
No,
based on that?
no,
Zero.
zero,
No. No. No relationship because of that.
no.
Because of that.
Catalyst.
And what do
Uh,
you? Has there been no reach out without going too personal into it? Is there no way mechanism mediation sort of some sort of a, by the way, I was a little bit over the top and you were probably a little bit sensitive, some sort of a common ground sort of conversation?
I think, and I can speak from my father, and from what I've experienced in the construction industry and the generation that my father is, um, they have ideals, they have perceptions, and they stick to them.
Yeah.
Would a little bit of leeway change a lot? No. A little bit of leeway would feel good, but at the end of the day, there are people that are stuck in their ways. Like you said, there are people that have been doing this years that put up this veil of masculinity and power, but are on the inside insecure.
Mm.
And I think that's a common thing, is that stubbornness that they don't want to
Yeah.
show who they are and what they feel.
There's no vulnerability
None.
on their side, because to
No.
be vulnerable is to be weak.
To be weak, yes. And what's
Yeah.
wrong with being a little weak? I don't get it.
Yeah.
There's it feels good. It
Yeah.
feels good to be weak. Everybody has the weak moments. By ignoring them is putting yourself aside.
Mm-hmm.
And why would you ever put yourself aside and then treat somebody like they don't matter?
Mm-hmm.
It's it's the
And
wrong angle.
do you have any peers in the industry that you bounce off yourself personally then? Because losing your father as a mentor, albeit a dictator type approach, um, it's a pretty big gap to lose in terms of skill set and technical knowledge. I think you'd appreciate
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you do
I
to replace that?
learn in every which way possible.
So give me
Um,
examples. Yeah.
I'm at the office at 5 in the morning because at 8 in the morning I have to be on a project, and I've never seen that system before. So I'm looking at the data sheets. I'm looking at YouTube. I'm looking at anything I can to find information. Um, I think the idea of having my dad as the information was great for the hands-on knowledge. I'm now a
Yeah.
project manager, able to look at it and be realistic with what our expectations are because I've done the hands-on, I've seen that stuff, I've put those
Yeah.
tools in my hand. But the technical knowledge, it's just it's a game of catch up. It's the how much drive do I have to succeed? Do I want to learn these projects and they keep giving me them and I keep growing, or do I want to sleep in, roll out of bed, and not go anywhere?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So that solves the flaky conversation. Is Clyde flaky and sensitive?
No.
He's not. If he's getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning studying a project that he has to start at 8 o'clock.
Yes,
Um,
I'm at the office before everybody. I had to ask the office to make it so that I can get in early before alarms go off because that's just the way I am. I'm
oh,
here
I love
working.
that.
I'm here learning. I've got to figure this out. If I don't know something, I'm not comfortable managing something, so I will figure out a way to learn it.
So what about the upstream then? Is obviously you must have a director or a project director or operations
Yep.
director that you're reporting to, or contracts director. Like their mentorship obviously would mean a lot to you.
Yeah, mentorship has become a huge thing for me. I'm not this puppy dog in the rain looking for somebody's leg to warm up against. I'm an independent person, and I'm like I've got the drive to do this myself.
Yeah,
Um, but to say that there aren't people in this industry that I lean on to for information or reach out to, it
yeah,
would be silly of me not to. You've got to
yeah,
grab on to every branch that there is if you're going to climb the tree.
yeah. And so, do you attend any events or exhibitions, or do you how do you tap into the industry to get what's on trend? What's the heartbeat of the Canadian construction industry, or
Hmm.
how do you get that?
I've been invited since starting with Excel. They've been sending me to training with new specialized programs, specialized materials. I've been going to the expos.
Yeah,
I've been doing LinkedIn and social media for myself for 5 years, promoting myself and promoting the work that I do and the business that I do with the companies that I work for.
yeah,
And I've continued that, so that's helped me meet new people and mentors. And I have mentors for the work side of the application. I go, this is the man, this is who I reach to. And then I have mentors that are trying to make changes in the industry.
yeah,
So you've got to really put together your A team.
yeah.
It's
I
not it's
love
not
that.
just one person.
Yeah, I love that. I love the way you said that. Actually, is a big takeaway from the podcast. You put together that A team of trusted advisory council type people around you
Yeah.
that you can tap into that knowledge when you don't have to fall into the pothole and hurt yourself.
Brains are only so big. You
Yeah.
can only hold so much in them. But if you put them together, there's a lot more to be shared.
So, what
So
would you say
let's
is your biggest quality in terms of delivering a major project? What do you bring to the table?
weakness. I bring weakness to the table, and I
Okay.
think that's new and exciting, and I love doing it.
Okay. So
I come in.
I'm not
Go
writing a
ahead.
check for you, pal. I'm
It's all
sorry,
right. All
but
right.
if you're telling me
I
you're going to be weak, I don't want that.
there's a strength in weakness that people
Yes.
don't understand, and
Yeah.
I think not taking advantage of it but utilizing it is important.
Yeah.
Being able to have
On.
conversations with engineers and clients and
Yeah.
not be this um, type A, arrogant, very short, this is how we do it, this is the only way to do it, this is what I'm going to propose. It's
Yeah.
how's your weekend? How's your kids? What do you think? What would be the best for you? It's showing weakness and caring that ends up bringing all of the strength in my clients.
Yeah.
And all of the clients that I have and all of the workers that I have is because of that strength that I've built by saying, I'm only one part of this.
Yeah. There's no
You,
ego.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have to put ego aside and say, hey, let's do this together.
Yeah.
If I
And
put your feelings and you put my feelings first, then we're going to do what's best for everybody on this job site.
so the really nice guy called Clyde Reed, who,
And really
you
nice
know,
guy. Everybody has bad days.
yeah, no, but I totally resonate with what you're saying, but I think you're being a little bit humble as well because I know we've had a conversation and you are a strong leader in your own right.
Thank you.
But part of your, I love this part of your character where you don't have the ego, you are vulnerable, but you're smart enough and intelligent enough to know how to disarm people
Mhm.
in terms of the relationship between what you want from them and what you want for the client. And I think
It's
that's
always
very
a give and
powerful.
take.
Yeah,
Every conversation, every interaction with somebody is a give and take.
yeah,
And if you don't understand the person you're talking to, or if you don't choose to understand the people you talk to, uh, you're not going to have a communication. You're not going to have a relationship that can be sustained over a phone or through emails because that's what project management is in the construction industry. It's phone
yeah,
calls and emails. I
yeah.
met somebody yesterday. I had a specialized training in a certain material. I met somebody yesterday that I've emailed 1,000 times, never seen his face.
Wow.
But he goes, "Hey, Clyde, it's so nice to meet you. We've never met." And I go, "Wonderful. It's been great." And we talked about jobs and we talked about our family and we talked
Yeah,
about the vacation he just had with his daughter. And these are things that I knew because you speak to them.
yeah,
And then when you get to a hard part in a project, that guy that's been working with you and knows about your life or cares about how you feel or if you've had a bad day or a crazy day, you're now not going to be easier on him per se, but you're going to work with them a lot more. You're not going to draw a line in the sand. You're going to collaborate. And the construction industry needs collaboration from all angles.
so what have you done? Because I'm sure you've come across the conflicted or the stereotypical guy that you just talked about earlier on in the form of your father. I'm sure you've come across people already since that that scenario.
Hmm.
So how have you dealt with those situations? Do you still go up and have the how many kids have you got and what do you do in the at the weekends conversation, or is this like another way? They're set in their ways. I suppose what I'm trying to say.
They're set in their ways. My father would never have a conversation about a guy about how I'm doing in school.
Mm,
I don't think he knew. Construction
yeah,
industry, you're working 12-hour days,
yeah,
going sun up to sun down.
hmm,
So his life was work. And I think a lot of people put in the industry, these big guys put their identity as their accomplishments and work.
yeah,
Um, and I'm not going to be, I know you're talking about all of these guys that you know that are going to say you're weak. And I know that. But I also know that I think we spoke last and I said it's kind of like a bridge. And I want to be that bridge. And I
hmm,
know that the old construction industry, the old generation has to walk on this bridge. And I know that the new industry has to walk on this bridge.
yeah,
So how do we both walk on this bridge? I was the guy at 7 a.m. not getting paid, shoveling out snow and salt and setting up tools so that
hmm,
the supervisors could get on the swing stage at 7:30 and ride. I
yeah,
was the first one on site doing it. I knew that's how to get their respect.
yeah,
Unfortunately, fortunately, you have to conform before you can change. You have to give a little bit
hmm,
before you can ask for a little bit. So I gave. I showed up early. I was the guy that was going to work late. I was going to be the guy that if you had a leak at 8 p.m. at night, I was going to jump into my car and go.
hmm,
I was going to be that guy. And through that, the older generation gave me the respect. The bosses and everything, they
yeah,
respected my opinion.
yeah,
And once they respected my opinion, then I was able to say, "Hey, you shouldn't talk to him like that.
hmm,
Hey, can you get respirators on site?"
yeah, yeah,
Like stuff like making those small changes, whether it be safety and the old school guys who go, "I've been breathing it my whole life. What's going to happen now?" Or "I've always done this." It's getting those changes isn't going to work until you've earned the respect of the people that can make those changes.
Yeah. Respect is it's earned, but it's a two way street.
It's a
It
two-way
doesn't come.
street.
Yeah, 100% agree. I'm amen to
And
that.
when I worked with those older guys and the 50, 60-year-old supervisors and foremen, and they said, "Look, I'm going to get Clyde. I want Clyde on my site because he's going to bust his ass. He's going to get the job done."
Yeah,
Then when I showed up and said, "Hey, I really need this,"
yeah,
or "Hey, I think we should try and do this better," or that, they'd go, "Okay, Clyde works his ass off. He's getting the job done for me. He's making the money. If all he needs is a respirator, get him a respirator. If um, I go up on a stage with a guy that just got yelled at and that guy complains to me and is upset all day, I would go down and say, "Hey, that guy slowed down all day because you yelled at him. There's got to be a different way that you can speak to him."
well done. Yeah, I
And,
love
and
that.
you got to make those changes, but
Yeah,
some
it's a
people don't
culture
see
shift.
them.
It is a culture shift,
It's a
though, isn't
culture
it?
shift, and
Yeah,
you don't have to force people to join the culture,
mm.
but you got to make pushes.
Yeah.
There's little pushes that we can make.
Like there's an argument that, and I don't want to disrespect the mental health side of things, but there is an argument that mental health is probably the mental health card is starting to show itself whenever there's an issue. And so
Hmm.
there's a fine balance between I want to be nice to people and I want to get the same outcome for everybody. But then
Hmm.
as soon as, the hammer comes down, this guy is telling me that his mental health is affected or her mental health is affected.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
now he's gone home or she's gone home at 2 o'clock in the day because somebody put the screw on and said, we're going to be doing a late night shift. And someone said, well, my mental health won't cover this. And they're gone. What do you say to sort of that? How do we manage that uh, scenario in broader terms?
It's extremely difficult. I actually had something just like this, so that resonates with me a lot. I had a worker who was going through mental health. Um, I knew about it, and it was because I spoke with him and I understood what was going on. I didn't push him away because if you push the mental health in their head away and you disregard it, When they have that feeling, they're not going to come to you and say, "Hey, I'm having a really shitty day."
Yeah.
And you don't get to have that conversation of how are you feeling, what can you do, where can I put you that you can still work the day and succeed. And I had a worker that was off all the time, and my bosses were on top of me. We were slowing down. I was trying to pick up his work for him to go, well, we're behind. I'm going to jump on the swing stage, even though I was just on the ground managing it. I said, I'm going to jump up and I'm going to work. But it gets to a breaking point sometimes.
Yeah.
And I had to speak to him and sit him down. And I actually showed up at his house after work.
Okay.
And I said, hey, man, because I had been driving him home and stuff. And I said, hey, man, let me come in and check in on you. So I came over with a coffee and sat down and said, talk to me. What's going on? Now, it was hard, and unfortunately, he ended up leaving because of his absences. He just couldn't
Yeah.
stay at work long enough
Couldn't
to
get
get
it
anything
together. Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, he tried a lot harder to
Yeah.
be on site because I
Hmm.
would support him and I would say, okay, I'm going to put you by yourself today. Do you need
Yeah.
to be by yourself today? I'll put you by yourself today over here if the work was
Yeah.
available. Do
Yeah.
you really need to be with people today? Are you having a hard time and you're having isolated thoughts?
Yeah.
I we'll work together. I'll help you today.
Yeah.
And you can support people's mental health without disregarding it. Like
Hmm.
when you first mentioned that whole balance and oh, well, people are taking advantage, or how are we supposed to balance the mental health? Has anybody tried to hold it in the middle a little bit? Like, yes, I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of people here that may be complaining and pulling the mental health card, but has anybody tried to meet them in the middle and talk about it? Has anybody
Hmm.
tried to support them and ask them what they need? Or does this older generation throw their hands up and go, I can't deal with these young
Yeah.
guys saying they're sad? People get sad.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. And it is a it's a basically what you done was a risk assessment on the situation
Yes.
and decided what the control measure was. You didn't have to write it down. You done it in person, which is obviously a lot more personable, and then the
Yeah.
person doesn't feel that there's a document being written about them specifically to, put a label on their
Hmm.
moment in time. And they may very well come back to you, I suppose, later on and said, you know what, you were the first one that recognized how to work with me. And
Yeah.
maybe when they go out and see that other companies mightn't be as have that holistic approach or organic approach to managing the situation, um, kudos to you for the way you handled it. And
Thank you.
yeah, well done.
Um, I've seen the mental health. I've seen it through the generations in my family. I've seen it through friends. Um, I may have my own history and everything like that, but to let it bubble to the surface and to let it out, I would feel isolated and alone if nobody around me cared.
Hmm.
And the reason I am who I am and the sum of my parts is because I had a wife and now a beautiful daughter that care,
Yeah.
that come home and ask me how my day was and ask me if I've had a rough day. And I think that if you're at work for 10 hours and all you have is your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, your boyfriend for that 2 hours to say, how was your day? I don't think that's enough.
Hmm.
And why can't your supervisor ask you about your day but still have expectations to get work done?
Hmm.
Why can't it be both? I
No.
had a I had a worker who left for more money. He said, "Hey, look, I've got to support my wife is or my what is it? I'm engaged. She's pregnant. I've got to go here. There's a better opportunity with more money."
Yeah.
I shook his hand and I said, I 100% respect that. You have to do what you have to do for your family. There's no bad feelings. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And He was so surprised by that, he teared up and said thank you because he was dreading saying it for 2 weeks because he felt bad. He
Yeah,
went to the new company for 2 weeks. He called me at the end of his second week crying, asking me if he can come back.
yeah.
He would
Because you've
come
set the
back,
tone, you've set the culture.
yeah, he would come back for a little bit less money for the
Yeah,
culture.
yeah.
Now, what
Well
does that
done.
say to the new people in this industry?
Yeah,
We're not money hungry trying to go to school for 4 years and then jump to CEO position. We're not all doing that.
yeah.
My hands were dirty and I worked from the ground up in this industry.
I'm interested to see. Do Excel, your company, have? Do they have a specific um, strategy to take people like yourself into the net and say, look, these guys have a serious opportunity to improve us as a company and create more sustainability for us as a business? Or was it just they were pot luck to find Clyde at the right time, the right
Ah,
moment?
thank you. That's very kind of you. I don't know if it was a right time, right moment, but they noticed me through my social media presence.
Okay, so I'm just trying to think, for you to give back some nuggets like that to people, younger generation that are trying to break into construction or thinking of construction as a career. You know, social media obviously has a massive um, engagement.
Hmm. Yeah,
I wouldn't call you young now at this stage. You're heading into a different part of your life, but like
yeah,
at the entry level, is it really trying to clear up your social media, get your LinkedIn, or how do you? What would you say to those people that are, it's because construction is brilliant because it's obviously low barrier to entry, and if someone wants to
yes,
feed themselves and feed their family, or whatever
yes.
that interest is, construction is that industry. So, what would you say would be the Clyde Reed's playbook to get yourself into the industry?
Oh, that's a big one. Clyde Reed's playbook. It's balance. If I could sum it up, it would be balance. I don't think I'd be this far in the industry if I was working 12, 14-hour days, coming home and falling asleep on the couch. I don't think I would be where I am in this industry if I didn't wake up early and read those documents. Um, but I don't think I would be where I am as a person if it wasn't for that other half of my life beyond work.
Yeah,
We as people need balance. And I think by taking that kind of like, how did you call it? A risk assessment. By taking that personal assessment of yourself and going, where am I willing to push myself and where do I want to be? And knowing where you want to be is the finish line. You just don't stop. You
hmm
don't stop running at the pace you're comfortable running.
yeah, and
And then,
you're going to hit tough times, and you're going to have
oh, you'll be
challenges.
stuck in the mud many times.
Yeah,
You'll be stuck in the mud many times, but it's the don't stop running. You're
yeah,
gonna feel lost. You're gonna feel stuck. You're gonna feel on top of the world. You're gonna feel like you can do no wrong. You're gonna find jobs that you blew out of the water, and then you're gonna find jobs that you're gonna be pulling your hair out, wondering how you're gonna piece it together.
yeah.
Um, but by not
It's
having
that
that
it's
balance,
it's that
you're
resilience, isn't it? You need to have that resilience and motivation, and
yes,
it's not just a job; it's a way of life.
right. And on the teeter totter of life, if you have resilience on one side, what do you have on the other? You got to have that soft spot on the other, balancing it out. If you want to be
100%.
tough and you want to be that bull in a china shop and run through the industry and saying I'm going to mess things up and I'm going to take it down and I'm going to succeed, there's got to be that soft spot on the other side that's being cared for and taken care of.
Yeah, to
And
add the
as
balance.
you can see, there's my soft spot.
Yeah.
That's the balance.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
what
brilliant.
makes the resilience worth it. When I've got my head down going through documents, I know at one day that might be the newest Picasso if I support it.
Hmm.
I don't know, but you have to try.
And I know that you have been active in the community to try and raise awareness in this area. Would it be right
Yeah,
in saying that? If you can talk to that or give us some sense of what that looks like?
I'm trying. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
I started LinkedIn 5 years ago for myself and to help my previous company start to bring in new contractors and new opportunities. And I saw this whole world open up from mentors that I know very well now of the safety industry and the mental health in the industry. And these I noticed were all of the older generation, and it was 50-year-old, 60-year-old men trying to preach to 50 and 60-year-old men about what I think and what
Hmm.
everybody that I've stood beside working, sweeping, shoveling, jackhammering, you're telling us what we all think too.
Hmm.
Well, why don't we tell you what we think? And I'm 29, like we spoke about, so I could have up to 30 years in this industry still.
Hmm.
So, am I going to make a change? I don't know. It's a huge industry. I have no idea. But am I going to beat myself up if I said I was in this industry for 30 years and I didn't even try? I would.
Hmm.
So, I'm using my social media, my LinkedIn, to not only do the professional side and create relationships with new clients and new business, but I'm also bringing the awareness of this is how I feel.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel like this. Let's see how everybody else feels and let's try and work on something. Am I going to change the industry? No, but can I knock in a different direction? Can I make a change? Can I make a pivot? I hope that's the goal.
Brilliant. Clyde, blown away. It's no, it's brilliant. Just people are going to be listening to this, and they're definitely going to be saying that's the type of person I want working for me. Um,
We're out here.
yeah, like I think you have a bit of a burden on your shoulders after this, in the sense that you should be getting out more to younger people, to encourage them to get into construction, to show them
Mhm.
the value of themselves, number one, and how they, if somebody else is doing it, why shouldn't they be doing it? They're no different than you or anybody else. It's
Yeah,
about passion, it's about motivation, it's about resilience, it's about collaboration, it's about empathy, um,
yeah.
all those stuff, like, and stuff, probably words that have never been associated with construction.
Yeah,
So
I've seen a lot on the social media where everybody goes, "Oh, all of these desk guys are going and preaching about the workers and the laborers and stuff like that." But well, you were always just at the desk, and I feel humbled and excited to have the opportunity to say, "No, no, I was the guy up there. I was the guy doing it. I'm going to tell you what we think."
yeah,
And as much as I want to get out to the young people and say, "Hey, everybody, this isn't a toxic work environment. This is a collaborative environment where we want people of all races and faiths and genders and all of that," because I want to say that to everybody.
yeah,
But I want to get to the people that are the CEOs or the people that are going to be taking over for the CEOs in the next
yeah,
short few years,
yeah,
and let's shake them a little bit
yeah.
so
Let's
that
have that
when
conversation.
let's
Yeah,
have
let's
it.
have, yeah, at the executive level, where you can make influence and have change.
And I feel like I'm a really cool balance of both of those worlds, that I get the opportunity to set an example of how I would like and how everybody would like to be treated on a job site, but
Yeah,
at the same time
get the
be at
job done.
get the job done and be at the executive management level where I can speak to the people that are much older than me.
Yeah,
I'm young and I know that, but I get
Yeah.
to now have these conversations in office settings
Yeah.
to try and help make something.
Friction doesn't produce positive results.
Friction produces heat.
Yeah. Yeah. And heat is fire, and fire is chaos.
Yes.
And you were a
But
firefighter, so you'd know.
yeah, as the trained, you sometimes you've got to set a brush fire for something to grow.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody's got to create that friction and
Yeah.
let that old brush burn so new brush can grow.
Mm.
And I don't want to burn it. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or knock anybody down or point anybody out for not saying or doing something. But what
Yeah.
I want to do is encourage and empower people to say and do something.
I think that's a brilliant way to finish up the podcast. And
I think so as well. That's
yeah,
lovely.
I think you're an absolute credit to the younger generation of construction.
Thank
And
you.
at some stage, you'll be the older generation of construction, and hopefully, you'll have trailblazed the path of what new construction culture should look like, and how that can produce better, if not um, nicer, will probably be the word that comes out of the conversation.
Yeah,
Places
yeah.
to work in, and construction shouldn't be, trousers falling around the ankles, and people roaring at each other, and unhealthy eating habits and drinking habits and addictions and all the stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's kind of yesterday. Today should be, we're all in it together. We're all trying to
Yeah.
support each other. There's an ecosystem of everybody trying to um, help themselves and help their families, but also help the people beside them in the pursuit of a better life for everybody.
Yeah, you can't say people over profit because all of the big CEOs will be like, whoa, no way.
Yeah.
But people and profit can be at the same level.
You can, yeah, all the boats can float together at the same
Yeah,
time. There's no
that's a lovely
reason why
way
that
to
can't
put it.
happen.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So let's get it moving. And I really appreciate the opportunity to actually be able to say these things
Yeah.
and instead of type them.
So how do we, obviously if a younger person wanted to reach out to you, but also as well, what I was thinking is the older person listening to the podcast whose son or daughter might be trying to enter into the construction industry, if they wanted to reach out to you, where would they find you? Is there links? How do they connect?
LinkedIn would be the best way to connect. I'm the 29-year-old that does not have an Instagram account, does not have a TikTok account. I don't have any of that. I didn't know what I was doing when I started. I truly didn't. But
Okay.
LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me. My email's there. We can always chat. Whether, like you said, you're the father of somebody wanting to jump into the industry, or the mother of somebody of their child wanting to jump into the industry. Uh, or you're in the industry and something's resonated with how you treat your child or how your home life is when you get home from work, reach out to me. I'm the open book.
Well
Um,
done.
my
Yeah.
weaknesses are my strengths.
We'll put the links of your LinkedIn into the show notes, and
Perfect.
definitely come back to us in the future. I'd love to hear
Anytime.
the success of where you're going, and I think there's probably a business in exactly what we've discussed in the last 50 minutes or 45 minutes. I think there's actually all sort of engagement structure around what you're actually doing, but maybe you'll have figured that out as well, and maybe that might be something that you might be interested in the future. And if you
Yeah.
do that, more kudos to you. And if you don't, it doesn't
Thank you.
matter. You're making small differences, which makes big impacts. So well done.
I've got 30 years to figure this out. One, one step at a time.
All right. Thanks very much, Clyde.
Thank
And
you.
every success for the future, pal.
You as well. Thank you so much, Gavin.